Hello ladies and gentlemen, Averageteadrinker here and we are back with the Tips and Tricks series. Regarding the series, I tend to wait once the season has been kind of played out for a few weeks just so I can find out new tech and then also give you the most up-to-date guide as I possibly can. And it's definitely not related to me recording all my videos after resetting my PC and UI at the beginning of the season and then completely forgetting about the ability tracker plugin on details.
Liar!
Starting off this season with the tips and tricks, I'm going to guide you through this Brackenhide hollow you're seeing here so you can also be an expert like myself. Quickly going over the talents for this dungeon, the spec tree is going to remain the same throughout all the dungeons really because we're playing the exact same tier set as last season, so don't have to worry about anything there. Regarding the class tree, it can change depending on the dungeon, but for Brackenhide hollow, it's definitely worth taking the Stone Skin Totem because there's a lot of bleeds throughout the entire dungeon. And if you also have no faith in your teammates, I definitely recommend taking Tremor Totem. Just like I have in the past, it will serve you well. In this first part of the dungeon, there are a lot of mobs here which flee on low HP, so it's always worth switching to them to finish them off before they can pull another pack. Starting off with the first notable mob, the Bracken Warscourge has two abilities. First being Rage Storm, which is a circle AoE which deals lethal ticking damage if stood inside, and this always moves towards the tank's position, so if your tank starts to move, you better start moving too. Next is their Fear Cast, Hideous Cackle. Drop Tremor Totem if you see it's not going to be kicked, and if you do have a kick it. Next is the Claw Fire, which fixates on random party members, and this can be hard CC to stop the cast. Also for us Shamans, our Thundershock knockup ability can stop the cast, but it has to be before it finishes its channel. The Cruel Bone Crushers have a Crushing Smash ability which deals heavy damage, so be ready to pop a defensive. There are two caster nulls, one being the Mystics, which you'll want to interrupt their Earthbolt cast with kicks and CC, and the next is the Decay Speakers, which cast Decay Surge and Withering Burst, which both need to be kicked. For the first boss, you'll want to focus down Trick Totem and interrupt his cast of Earthbolt, which has a higher priority over Greater Healing Rapids, as that can be removed if we take Purge. At the start of the fight, I'd use Stone Skin Totem as you'll reduce the bleed damage from Gash Frenzy from Gash Tooth, which comes out right away as the fight starts. Dodge the Blade Storm from Hackclaw and never stand on the tank as well as Hackclaw cleaves. Regarding CDs, use defensives on Gash Frenzy and Marked for Butchery, and if you're a dwarf you can instantly remove the Gash Frenzy bleed. Your Primordial Wave should line up with the first Hex Trick Totem, so make sure you focus that down as soon as possible. After beating the first boss and now clearing towards Treemouth, you'll have to deal with these mobs, and some of them are higher priority than other ones. Firstly, the Rotsingers, they are the highest priority, and if you have a cleansing file from an alchemist in your party, you try to kill the Rotsinger before it casts another totem. You can kill the totem, but it's really tight on the timer from when it spawns and when it casts, so it's better to just kind of focus down the Rotsinger before it casts another totem. Next is the Wilted Oak, which Enhancement does great damage on whilst everyone else blasts the AoE, so it's always a good target to stick to and funnel on. You'll want to watch out for the Necrotic Breath Frontal and the Lashes it summons, which puts a stackable bleed debuff on you. Be wary of the big green ooze, which bursts at 20%, so pay attention to the massive green swirly under its body, and be ready to pop a defensive if you get targeted with Gushing Ooze as it hits pretty hard. Lastly, the Decayed Elders, you'll want to interrupt their Decaying Root casts because they reduce haste and do damage. And these guys also summon Lashes, so as I said before, be ready to pop something if you have too many bleed stacks and you don't have a way to remove them. Dwarf's OP, man. Treemouth is incredibly simple. Don't stand on the swirlies when Yad spawns or when they die. Only use a defensive if you have to soak for the tank on Grasping Vines. Normally, most tanks they call if they can't soak, and they call if they will. And always try line up your Primordial Wave for each time the Yads come out so you can get more funnel damage. Stink Breath is easier this season, but most of the time you will probably skip them if you can, be it through Night Elf or if you have a Evoker and a Priest. You can get the Priest on the mount, he kicks off the vendors, you all get on the mount and then you get rescued over, and you have Life Grip to get anyone who didn't get on the mount. The Breath Cast, which used to be unavoidable, is now avoidable, so you just sidestep it and don't bait it on your range. I'm going to quickly mention here that if you move too far forward after skipping and you cross this bridge, you will pull 2 stealth mobs, so just jump to the right on this little hill here as soon as you can, because people still ninja pull this in my keys to this day, and the dungeon has been in 2 Mythic Plus pulls. There is a sweet spot here you'll see me use, and you can get up each time on this spot just by the branch, so if you were struggling like we all have at some point, this is the way to go, as you do not want to be that guy who always needs a life grip or a rescue. Definitely not me and Everbloom last season. So for Gutshot, there are some min-max things you can do with the traps and your position if you play melee. You'll want to drop traps either closer to hyena spawns, and you'll also want to try and line them up to intercept where they are pathing either towards the boss or whoever's targeted with meat toss. And speaking of meat toss, always pay attention to this ability, especially if you're playing melee, because if you're close to the boss and the ads are also close and it goes on you, you're going to hit that floor point of view real quick. Safely, and I repeat, safely try to spread your flame shocks to the hyenas for funnel damage, and then just use your defensives when needed. Just before the last boss, there are 2 mobs in this area you want to be wary of. First being the Rot Hector, and if you ever get targeted with Withering Contagion, just don't ADHD everywhere like a DH and hope you get dispelled quickly, and if you don't, just wolf it. Next are the Witherlings, which cast Bloody Bite, which is one of the most oppressing abilities Blizzard ever made this expansion, and if something similar happens again in the War Within, I'm going to flying headbutt everybody in sight, because the fact that only melee had to deal with this is criminal. But just CC their cast and hope for the best, and maybe pop a defensive. Last boss can be tricky if you don't have totem damage, but with our season 3/4 tier set, we tend to have damage up for each one because we can kind of play around Primordial Wave, and how you do that is you send your Primordial Wave buff, but you don't consume it, so you just use other spenders like Elemental Blast, and then once the totem spawns, quick Flame Shock, and then you blast. Regarding defensives, you can just send them on each Withered Eruption cast because there's nothing else to press defensives on. Quick word on Enhancement, you'll see we nearly did 580k overall, which is huge. We only got 2 PIs as the Boomy died, so that's the only reason we got them. And the majority of the time in this dungeon, because we're playing Enhancements, we're just doing funnel target damage anyway. So what you're seeing is that Enhancement actually isn't as bad as it's made out to be. Don't get me wrong, we could have things better with certain parts of our kit, but if you love the spec like I do, don't let the community perception bring you down. Just play what you enjoy. Just regarding this series, it is a little bit different from the previous ones. If you did prefer the short version of this tips and tricks, please do let me know in the comments, and if you didn't, also let me know. Take it easy everyone, and go smash some Brackenhide keys.